Just like a road needs to be blocked off for construction workers to safely repair a highway, so too must energy be blocked when authorized personnel repair machinery at your facility. A maintenance worker placing himself in the path of energized parts is like a construction worker stepping into traffic. Like a speeding automobile, uncontrolled energy can cause great harm. In this program, you will learn what lockout and tagout procedures are at your facility, how to recognize when they are taking place, and the importance of respecting the potential hazards involved. Energy is the ability to move or potentially move objects. Types of energy include electrical, mechanical, chemical, pneumatic, hydraulic, thermal, or gravitational. All equipment at your facility runs on some type of energy. Lockout-tagout procedures are used to prevent the release of this energy when servicing or maintaining equipment. Workers authorized for lockout-tagout operations must identify all energy sources, take the proper steps to eliminate energy to the work area, and place a lock on the energy isolating devices to prevent people from operating the equipment. This may be done by a team of workers or by one person, depending on the size and complexity of the equipment. If the proper procedures were not followed, maintenance personnel would be at grave risk. The potential for being crushed or electrocuted exists if someone is caught between moving parts, pinch points, or electrical circuits with the energy still active. The safety of the personnel performing the task and those who work in the affected area relies on good communication. You will be notified before a lockout and tagout procedure takes place. Ask any questions you have regarding the procedure. Know your company's policies for lockout-tagout procedures on machines that you work with. What are the energy sources that must be locked or tagged? Are different procedures represented by color-coded tags? Is there equipment that is not designed for a lock and can only be tagged? Since tags do not physically prevent operation of the energy source, extra precautions must be taken. Although tags must be durable and attachments secure, it is possible they may become detached from the power disconnect. Never power up a piece of equipment if you are unsure. Contact your supervisor. Miscommunications or lack of proper procedures in lockout-tagout situations could be disastrous. Never power up a machine if there are signs that maintenance is being performed. If you are unsure, ask your supervisor before turning on the power to a machine. Authorized personnel are also responsible for removing tags after the equipment has been re-energized. Failing to do so weakens the integrity of the lockout-tagout program. If equipment is working, yet still is tagged, notify your supervisor. It is estimated that 25% of all lockout-related accidents with lost work time involve machine operators. Many of these accidents occur when workers attempt to perform a function without following proper lockout-tagout procedures. This includes lubricating, cleaning, unjamming, or making minor adjustments to the machine. Anytime you place a part of your body or object in the point of operation or remove machine guards, lockout-tagout procedures must be used. If you are not authorized to perform lockout-tagout procedures, contact the proper personnel. Locks and tags at your facility are as important as road signs and barricades are to a construction crew. When you see a lock or tag, respect its meaning and the potential hazards involved. Never touch or alter locks, tags, or the equipment they are attached to. Check the area before powering up equipment. Be familiar with lockout-tagout procedures at your facility. Your safety and that of your coworkers depends on it.
Today's occupational hazards require the use of many types of personal protective equipment. Whether you are covered from head to toe in protective apparel or simply need earplugs, personal protective equipment is designed to ensure your safety. In this program, we will take a look at the many types of personal protective equipment, its proper uses, and in what situations it should be worn. Hard hats are used for bump protection or in any situation where the worker is in danger of being struck by falling material. When wearing a hard hat, always adjust the straps so that a gap is created between your head and the hat. If your head touches the inside of the hat, you are not protected. Make sure your headgear is in good working condition. Every day, close to 1,000 workers suffer eye injury accidents on the job. Statistics show that 90% of all eye injuries could be prevented. These accidents range from flying particles thrown off by a grinder to caustic chemicals being sprayed or splashed. Safety glasses must be worn in any work situation where eye injury is a potential hazard. Goggles are used in some specific situations, like working with chemicals. Face shields are used when grinding to protect your nose and mouth as well. A welder's mask is specifically designed to filter out harmful rays and protect against splatter. Whatever the situation, always use the proper eye protection. Hearing loss can occur when exposed to loud noises for a prolonged period of time. Ear protection has been developed to reduce the amount of noise that reaches your ear. There are two types of ear protection, ear muffs and ear plugs. The muff is worn over the head or as part of other headgear such as a hard hat. They offer protection by forming a seal around each ear. Ear plugs are inserted into the ear. To insert the plug, roll them between your forefinger and thumb lengthwise to reduce the size. Insert into the ear and hold in place to allow the plug to expand. It's your responsibility to wear the proper hearing protection devices. If you work near dust, chemicals, paint, or other potential airborne hazards, you may need respiratory protection. Respirators fall into two categories, air purifying and air supplied. Air purifiers use filter cartridges designed to remove very specific elements such as particles and vapors from the air. Make sure you use the proper cartridge for the respective hazard. With all respirators, the most important aspect is that it fits properly to protect you from the potential airborne hazards that you are dealing with. When your task is completed, thoroughly clean your mask and properly store it. Special clothing is designed to be used as a protective covering when handling airborne hazards such as asbestos, or to protect your skin from hazardous chemical splashes. Clothing may include Tyvek suits, rubber suits, aprons, and more. If the clothing is not disposable, make sure it is clean before storing. Gloves protect your hands when working with chemicals, hot objects, and sharp tools. The right type of glove must be used in each situation. It is also important to know when not to wear gloves. Do not wear gloves when working near gears, rotating machinery, or anything that could snare a piece of fabric and draw your hand into the machine. The majority of foot injuries happen when a falling object hits the foot, a worker steps on sharp objects, or an object rolls onto the foot. Two basic reasons for footwear are protection from heavy objects and to provide proper traction for slippery surfaces. There are many different designs of footwear to be used in different situations. Personal protective equipment is designed to ensure your safety. Know the proper equipment to wear for each situation and how to wear it. Keep the equipment in good shape by cleaning and proper storage. Prevent disabling accidents from happening to you. Be prepared.
Permit-required confined space entries and exits can be a matter of life and death. But with the proper training, safety procedures, personal protective equipment, and emergency plans in place, disasters can be avoided. A confined space is any space that is big enough for an employee to enter and perform work, has limited openings for entry and exit, and is not intended for continuous occupancy. A permit-required confined space differs because it may contain one or more of the following dangers. Hazardous air, also called an atmosphere, a material that might engulf the entrant as it shifts or gives way. An internal structure that could cause an entrant to be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls, or a floor which slopes downward and tapers to a smaller cross-section, or any other safety or health hazard. It's important to be cautious around permit-required confined spaces. Just sticking your head in a confined space to have a look around is considered an entry and could be fatal. For this reason, these spaces must be clearly marked with signage, barricades, or any other means necessary to prevent unauthorized entry. Permit-required confined spaces may contain hazardous atmospheres. These hazards can cause injury, illness, and death, so always consider every confined space dangerous until you've performed tests that prove otherwise. This is why a permit is required for every entry into a permit-required confined space. All permits must list the date, location, and reason for the entry, as well as any authorized entrants, attendants, and supervisors, and the length of time the permit is valid. The permit must detail what physical or environmental hazards may be encountered in the confined space. If a hazardous air contamination or oxygen deficiency is known to exist, the measures to isolate the space and eliminate or control hazards must be listed on the permit. If these tasks are already done, the permit must state when they were completed. If test results show that the confined space is contaminated, keep out until you have purged, cleaned, inerted, or ventilated the space. Retest to ensure conditions have been brought into acceptable limits. If it can't, you'll have to use proper respiratory equipment, such as a self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA, to enter. The permit also includes a list of all additional hazards that may be generated by work within the space. The permit lists any energy sources that may be hazardous to anyone entering the permit-required confined space, and how to isolate them. A list of any personal protective equipment, or PPE, required to protect against hazards in the confined space is entered on the permit. Finally, a list of communication equipment to be used between entrants and attendants, and how to summon help in an emergency must be included on the permit. Place barricades, signs, and covers at the entrance to warn others to stay away, or if there is a likelihood of a release of toxic gases. Once all pre-entry requirements are completed, an authorized person must double-check the accuracy of the information on the permit and ensure that it's properly filled out. He or she must then sign the permit. Should the attendant and entrants leave the space unattended, a new permit may be required. If the permit expires or conditions within the confined space change, all entrants must exit the space and a new permit is issued to finish the work. Every permit-required confined space entry must have an attendant, a trained individual stationed outside the space who monitors the entrance inside and performs all attendant duties. One of your biggest responsibilities as an attendant is to keep your coworkers safe. To do this, you must maintain continuous communication with all entrants within the confined space by voice, radio, phone, or visually. If the space is so configured that none of these methods work, other possibilities for communication include tugging on a rope, tapping, or waving a flashlight. Stay at your post unless you are replaced by another attendant. If you must leave and no one is there to relieve you, all entrants must exit the permit-required confined space. Never enter the confined space even if you see that entrants are in trouble, or you could also become a victim. Permit-required confined space entry is serious business. You and others could face serious illness, injury, and even death if you don't follow your facility's guidelines for safe entry. Recognize the potential hazards that may be present in a confined space and how to alleviate or control them. Follow the precautions necessary before entry to ensure your safety. Properly fill out the permit and get it approved. Use the proper personal protective equipment and safety equipment for safe entry. And be aware of all attendant and entrant responsibilities. And every permit-required confined space entry will be a success.
Why is it that the most important cog in the machinery is called the backbone of a system? It's probably because the backbone is the most important cog in the human machinery. Our backs and spinal system are involved in every motion we execute. In this program, we will discuss the 4 key ingredients for a trouble-free back: proper lifting techniques, good posture, moderate exercise, and weight control. Statistics show that 8 out of 10 of us will suffer from disabling back pain at some point in our lives. 93 million workdays are lost in the United States each year due to back injuries, resulting in a bill that exceeds $14 billion. That figure does not include associated indirect costs such as productivity, retraining, lowered morale, and personal expenses. Future back problems can be avoided, but it takes an understanding and commitment on your part. Since under 10% of all back injuries happen in the workplace, it is also a commitment in your lifestyle. Pain and injuries may occur immediately, as in the case of improper lifting techniques, or can be the long-term result of repeated offenses such as poor posture or excessive body weight. Your back is a complex structure of bones, muscle, ligaments, and the nervous system. It operates like a lever with a balance point, or fulcrum, located at your waist. Anytime you bend at the waist, your back absorbs the stress and pressure from the weight of the object you are lifting. In addition, your back also absorbs the weight of your upper body and head. Our backs operate at a 10-to-1 ratio with our fulcrum point when we bend to pick up something. With the average adult torso and head weighing 105 pounds, bending at the waist to lift something as light as the Sunday newspaper can expose your lower back to over 1,000 pounds of pressure. The first key ingredient to combat back injuries is proper lifting techniques. Bend your knees anytime you move towards the floor to pick something up. Use your legs to lift, not your back. Keep the object as close to your body as possible. Never stretch or lean over a barrier to pick something up. Create a passage or slide it to where you can lift it properly first. Remember to always keep your back straight. Your thighs contain a single bone surrounded by 22 inches of some of the strongest muscles found in the body. Utilize them. The second key ingredient for a trouble-free back is good posture, whether you are standing or sitting. A good standing posture is one that maintains the spine in its natural S-shaped position. A poor posture puts unnecessary strain on the spine every waking minute of the day. When you work in a stationary standing position, avoid stooping or continuously leaning. The height of your workstation should be adjusted to prevent this. If you must stand without moving for any length of time, use a footrest to help reduce excessive strain in the lower spine. Remember to alternate the raised foot frequently. When sitting, maintain your back in its natural S shape. Your buttocks should be back in the chair with your weight on your upper thighs, knees higher than hips. The height of the chair and adequate leg room are also important to allow you to perform your tasks without having to lean forward. Avoid chairs or sofas that you sink into. Instead of allowing your muscles to relax, a soft chair causes muscle tension in the lower back and buttocks. The third key ingredient is moderate exercise. A limber, mobile back is less likely to give you trouble than the one that is stiff and unused to movement. Weight control is also essential for a trouble-free back. Because of the 10-to-1 ratio the back has with the fulcrum point, an additional 20 pounds in your upper torso is equivalent to 200 pounds to your spinal system. It is not the lifting of an object that causes pain, but rather the way we execute the motion. Remember the proper lifting techniques. Bend your knees and lift with your legs. Keep the object as close to your body as possible. Remember to always keep your back straight. Use good posture in both standing and sitting. Maintain proper weight and do moderate exercise to prepare and limber up the back. The statistics are alarmingly high. Back problems are painful, nagging injuries that can stick with you the rest of your life. The time to do something about it is now. As a society, we communicate and dispense information on a daily basis, written, verbally, visually, or a combination. Knowledge is the most powerful safety tool at your disposal. OSHA has developed a hazard communication standard that informs you, the employee, of chemical hazards in the work environment. In this program, we'll discuss what the hazard communication standard is, container labeling of hazardous chemicals, and material safety data sheets. The main objective of the Hazard Communication Standard is to provide you with the information necessary to ensure your safety. The original standard was enacted in 1985 and included chemical and manufacturing facilities. The standard has now been expanded to include all non-manufacturing facilities. Your operation may be as complex as the manufacturing of chemicals or as simple as the use of cleaning solvents. You may not even have hazardous chemicals at your location, but the nature of your business requires you to work at a variety of sites which may have them. In any situation, you must be aware of the hazards that chemicals can bring. Chemical manufacturers and importers are responsible for evaluating all the chemicals they produce or import to determine if they are a physical or health hazard. In evaluating these chemicals, all available scientific evidence of hazards must be considered. Once a chemical has been determined to be hazardous, it is communicated in two ways: container labeling and the use of material safety data sheets, or MSDS. Container labeling is done by the manufacturer or importer of a hazardous chemical. The actual format of the labels may differ from company to company, but the labels contain the same information. They are the name of the chemical, the address and emergency phone number of the manufacturer or importer of the chemical, the physical hazards. Will it explode or catch fire? Is it radioactive? Basically, what happens when it is mixed or exposed to different chemicals or conditions. Any important storage or handling instructions. Health hazards. Is it poisonous? Can it cause cancer? Does it cause an irritation like a rash on your skin or your eyes to itch? What protective clothing, equipment, or procedures are required when working with the chemical? The purpose of container labeling is to inform you quickly about possible hazards. The second way of communicating the hazards of these chemicals is material safety data sheets. Material safety data sheets, or MSDS, go into much more depth. Some of them may look like chemistry textbooks, but regardless of its appearance, the MSDS is designed for you. An MSDS must be kept on file for every hazardous chemical stored or used in the workplace. It must be accessible to all employees. It is the manufacturer's responsibility to supply them. It contains valuable information concerning the chemical, its danger, safety procedures, and engineering response techniques. It also tells you when to wear respiratory protection, gloves, eye protection, and protective clothing when working with the material. Though all material safety data sheets may not look alike, they contain the same 8 sections of valuable information. The whole purpose behind the Hazard Communication Standard is to protect you from the hazards associated with chemicals in the workplace. Unprotected, these chemicals can cause you to suffer serious health consequences. Skin rashes, irritation, disease and illness, and birth defects are a few of the known complications caused by unprotected exposure to hazardous chemicals. All the information in the world won't do you a bit of good if you don't apply it, or if you take foolish chances. Know when and how to use protective equipment when called for. The Hazard Communication Standard was developed for your protection. Take advantage of the situation. Learn to recognize and understand all container labeling and material safety data sheets in your work environment. Respect all hazards. When in doubt, check with your supervisor. Always follow safe work practices. Remember, knowledge is your most important safety tool. You have the right to know.